locked in.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
How you doing?
I
Talked
talked
to
to Bob.
Bob?
And I talked to Bob.
Okay.
He's fine.
Okay.
He's recused, yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to get a hold of you guys between Friday and today, so I went to three different lawyers, or four different lawyers.
This one's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Logged in.
Okay.
Everyone else is fine except
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
Everybody has to? Yeah, yeah.
Is y'all here? Do you have problems with your?
Greg can't log in. That's all we were waiting for, Peter, but we can.
Do you want to sit over here? Your light's on too, huh?
I think everybody does then. I think everybody has to do their hand. With one out, it won't work. That's what Tracy said. Yeah. Okay. Council will call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone that joined us here this afternoon. Mayor Brown has a prior commitment; he's on his way, so we'll start that. We'll call the meeting to order. Any declarations?
What a group. We don't look too sane.
Seeing none.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just given a paper by our solicitor here, or I had a discussion with our solicitor in regards to the development on Brackley Point Road. I guess I'm told that I have to take a conflict of interest call on that one. I own a property, I think 5 doors down, and so they asked me not to vote on it in case it would do something wrong in Iraq. So that's, I was just given this 5 minutes ago, so
okay.
I just wanted to explain.
Thank you, Councilor Jerome. Councilor Field?
Your worship, I have one resolution, if council agrees, under new business.
Yeah, so is council okay with this resolution under new business, Councilor Field?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So approval of the agenda? Move, second, thank you. Adoption of the previous draft minutes, December 9th, and then we had a special meeting December 10th, 23rd, and January 7th. Thank you, Councilor Bard, Councilor McLeod. Any business arising out of those minutes?
No, that's fine.
Seeing none, reports to committees, we'll start with planning and heritage and Councilor Rivera.
Do you want to talk with the voting?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Councilor Bard's machine is not working, so we'll have to use our hands tonight, unfortunately. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Technology is great when it's working. All right, so Planning Board met on Monday, January 6th. A copy of the minutes are in your binder. Included in the package is an excerpt of the Planning Board minutes from the November 6th, 2019 planning report regarding the zoning and development bylaw amendments. Heritage Board did not meet in December, nor did Design Review. There's 10 resolutions for Council's consideration tonight. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bard. Any questions before the resolutions? Seeing none, first resolution, Mr. Kelly.
Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request for Esri Canada be awarded a contract to prepare a corporate GIS strategy for $25,000 plus HST as stipulated in the proposal be approved.
No question called.
Question, all in favor? Opposed?
Although we're using it here.
Carried. Thank you.
I work.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that council adopt the attached new development agreement template as prepared by the city solicitor and direct staff to utilize the revised agreement moving forward.
Question, okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried 9-0. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request to decrease the north minimum side yard setbacks from 4.5 meters to 3.07 meters and increase the maximum residential density from 18 dwelling units with an underground parking to 24 dwelling units with underground parking for the property located at 288 University Avenue, PID 359786 be approved.
Councillor Tripp.
I'll just vote in favor.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Just one more word.
Carried 9-0. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request for a variance under section 3.9.1.f of the zoning and development bylaw in order to locate a temporary trailer 12 foot by 50 feet at 37 McCarville Street, PID 604173 for 1 year in order to provide offices for employees of Delanco who are displaced during the interior renovation to the elements of Landco buildings in the West Royalty Industrial Park be approved.
Question called.
All in favor? Those opposed? Carried 9-0. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request for a variance under section 3.9.1.f of the zoning and development bylaw in order to locate a temporary trailer 22 by 180 feet at 64 Hillstrom Avenue, PID 872-630 for 1 year in order to provide offices for employees of the Landco who are displaced during the interior renovation to the Landco buildings in West Royalty Industrial Park be recommended be approved.
Question called.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried 9-0.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from mature neighborhood to medium density residential, and amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from a single detached residential R1L zone to the low density residential R2 zone for the property located at 213 Kensington Kensington Road, PID 385849, in order to convert the existing single detached dwelling into a 2-unit dwelling be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Seeing no questions, all in favor? Opposed? Carried 9-0.
Moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request to residential R1L zone to the low density R2 zone, amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from industrial to commercial, and amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from light industrial M1 zone to the mixed use corridor MUC zone for the property located at Kensington Road, PID 278895 be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Thank you, Mayor Cody. Just a question for Greg there. So, reading the package there, Councillor, I see that this project has kind of gone from an affordable housing project to now only some are going to be affordable housing. And then I'm hearing that there's also a third building perhaps, but I guess my main concern is, are we going to see some plans for this before we go to a public consultation? Like, it'd be awful good to see something before. You know, it's kind of a big project, and to find out things are changing before we even approve it is starting to scare me a little bit. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLeod. Yes, we're told that there will be plans, more than what you see in your package. I think they have a few renderings of what the building that they're currently building or plan on building look like. I think they're going to offer some more information at the public meeting. And as for the affordable housing piece or the affordable portion of it, you know, they, as they explained at the planning board meeting, that it has to make sense from a financial aspect for them to build this using some portion as you know, affordable and some for market. So they found that sweet number according to them. So a portion is going to be used for affordable housing master plan, and they're going to tap into to grant money, I guess, through the federal government, and the rest will be market value.
Just, Jeff, thank you very much, Councillor Rivard. Just again, would just like to ask that you push hard on these projects, that affordable housing does take priority. I mean, I think when those lands all got consolidated, we were all under the impression that it was going to be this great, you know, and also the province as well, that it was going to be this great affordable housing piece, and then all of a sudden it's now starting to get downsized. So just make sure that that we keep on the path that it's for affordable housing was our main reason. Thank you.
Sorry, just to follow up, Councillor McLeod, I just want to be, again, from the city perspective, I mean, we're certainly not going to push. I mean, we have policy in place, and we certainly encourage
Right.
Developers to keep that in the back of their mind when developing, if a portion or all or whatever can be used for affordable housing. But unfortunately, that's not our call, and the numbers have to make sense to developers. And I've spoken to them in the past, and you know, there's some programs that are in place through the province, others through the federal government. Again, for them to build, it has to make sense. It's pretty expensive these days to build, as you can imagine. Yep. So we'll continue to encourage.
Thank you. Good, thank you.
So all in favor of that resolution? Opposed? Carried 9-0.
Moved by Councillor Vard, second by Councillor McCabe, that request to locate temporary special event signage for the Jack Frost Winter Fest at 6 pre-approved locations designated by the city for a 35-day period on an annual basis, subject to an annual permit applications be approved.
No questions, all in favor? Opposed? Carried 9-0.
What's this one?
Moved by Councillor Vard, second by Councillor McCabe, excuse me, please.
Do I have to second that? You don't know. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, moved by Councillor Vard, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from low-density residential to the medium-density residential, and B, amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning development bylaw from single-detached residential R1L zone to the medium-density residential R3 zone for the property located at 68 Brashley Point Road, PID 396713, in order to construct 2 townhouse dwelling units containing a total of 14 units be rejected.
You vote in favor.
Okay, Councilor McCabe,
Yep.
comment?
So I do need to speak to this application, of course. It is in my ward. I just think we need to remind ourselves that this lot was purchased as an R1 zoned lot. And if you look at the surrounding area in the community, every lot in that community is an R1 zone property. Councillor Vard, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to kind of clarify for council a comment that you did make at planning board meeting last Monday with regard to spot zoning, because I did 100% agree with your point. And I'm just hoping you could explain this to council, as I believe that it's the staff's recommendation to reject this was kind of based on the same thought process. But before I sit down, I think it's important to point out a couple of things. In 2004, the lot across the road was denied an application to subdivide this lot with access from their property onto Brackley Point Road. There was site issues with distance. They were forced to exit onto Maxfield Avenue. At the time, the police reported they had no concern with the development of the property, but they noted that this was with exit and access onto Maxfield Avenue. And I guess I'm not really sure what's changed, because these safety issues that were present, not a lot has changed in that time. There's been no new infrastructure. Traffic hasn't slowed down any on Brackley Point Road, and actually our school population has probably increased. I do appreciate that the developer had put in a traffic study to address the traffic issue, but I just think it's important to note that the traffic study was completed on December 23rd. They felt that that would mean traffic would be higher because of holiday shopping time, but actually there was no school on the 23rd of December, which means there was no buses on the road. There were no parents driving their kids to and from school. At Stone Park, presently there's 642 students, and Sherwood has 531 students. So that's 1,173 students in the two schools in a really close proximity to where they want to develop. The increase of traffic between 8 and 9 and 2:30 and 3:30 on school days would definitely be an issue, in my experience. The public meeting, we heard from many residents with concerns about safety of access to Brackley Point Road. The traffic increases with 14 townhouses might not be the only concern. We have to look that this property is on top of a blind hill. We know speeding's an issue, and we know that there's a lack of infrastructure. It is a fact that this is an R1 neighborhood, and I do appreciate that we have to look at continually developing, but there has to be safe and there has to be a reasonable area. So even after the traffic study and the public consultation meetings, both planning board and staff have recommended again to reject this application. So I don't know how we can't listen to that, but if you could clarify what your point was, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. So just on the first part, the traffic study itself, while I agree the 23rd is not an optimal date, the engineer that did do the review said that that even if we were to double plus the traffic on that road, that it certainly wouldn't impact the numbers. So from a traffic review point, I guess it was removed from the shortcomings of the report by planning staff, so it wasn't considered an issue anymore. But the one thing I did say at planning board, and I did say it to the applicant, and my concern was around, again, talk about spot zoning, talk about the rezoning in a predominantly an R1 single attached area. And I mean, you can look within a 500 meter radius probably and see that there's no R2 or R3. So for me, the point I made is that if we allow this to go through, that there's an opportunity, of course, to, open the door to other landowners that have big parcels lot on Brackley Point Road to come into the city and ask for the same thing, which would certainly change the appearance and, I guess the landscape of that community in that area. And I don't know if that was what it was intended to do. So so again, the applicant made a point or asked, that he was willing to lock into a site-specific amendment, or which makes it a bit more, I'll say, difficult for other people to apply. But again, people can apply for it. So again, it just opens up the door, the potential for future development and changing that whole area and what it was, well, I guess in the official plan what it was intended to be. So I hope that offers a bit of clarity. I'm not sure, but.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cody, Deputy Mayor.
My question surrounds, Councillor Rivera, exactly what you were just speaking about, the traffic study. I think on November the 14th in this room here, we had a choice to go one of two ways. We could have rejected the application from the applicant at that point in time, or we could have deferred the decision pending a informative traffic study, and it went to a 3-3 tie, which indicates it was fairly close discussion, and then it went to the mayor's chair, and the mayor broke the tie. So the mayor agreed that we should give the benefit of the doubt. Let's get some data, some information, some accurate information on this traffic issue they were talking about. I think the sightline thing had been already inspected to the satisfaction of everyone. I mean, the chief of police said the sight lines weren't an issue. The city engineer, the manager of public works, had said if the driveway had moved a little more north, it wouldn't be an issue. And then of course, the the traffic study guy not only gave us traffic reply, he also gave us his opinion on the sight line. So, I mean, that kind of was pushed to the side. As far as the traffic study, as you indicated recently there, it came back as it was well within standards. So I know there's some there's people alluding to the Christmas shopping and no school and everything, but let's face it, he said, you know, double the traffic on Brackley Point Road, and it was still, my point is, why did we put the applicant through the cost and the work of having a traffic study done? It came back favorable to the applicant. One would think, as a result of the approval for the traffic study, that was the salient point of this application, and therefore it should have had some consideration for approval. I'm not criticizing the committee or whatever, but it's pretty hard to explain to the applicant. Now, the applicant would probably say, well, geez, you could have told me that on the 13th of November. Would have saved us all a lot of time and trouble. As far as the development is concerned, I don't think, and I can ask Mr. Forbes, the manager of the planning department, I don't think there's anything more restrictive in the zoning and development bylaw than any application that has a development agreement attached to it. That restricts the person to having that and that only. They can't even sneeze without permission from city council thereafter. So I've heard people say, well, it's a pretty big jump from R1 to R3. It's not a big jump from R1 to R3 if there's an attachment to a development agreement, which he has his marching order. So I'm not really of that school. My final comment is we do have one of these developments in the ward I represent, Brighton Ward 3. It's on North River Road, probably the third busiest road entering the city after St. Peter's Road and University Avenue. It's at the bottom of another very busy street, Kirkwood Drive, right next door to Colonel Gray Drive, which is a exit and entry area for all those people in the west side of North River Road. So I don't think, other than the two aforementioned, I don't think there's, and there's 10 units, 9 or 10 units there. There's never been an incident. I mean, they're very nice brick duplexes, and everybody lives in harmony, and you hardly know they were there. So therefore, I was a bit put off, I say was the word on the recommendation, but I can see the other side of the issue too, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Duffy, for your comments. So on the first was the traffic review and council's vote to allow for the deferral, to allow for the applicant to go to the review. I think again, it was part of a bigger picture, if you will. If you looked back at the report, staff did still have concerns with regards to the zoning, with the existing neighborhood, things of that nature. I think the applicant may have taken a very proactive approach in the sense that, you know, a lot of things that were discussed at the meeting, the public meeting, were around traffic with regards to the safety and components like that and heavy use. I think what the applicant did with getting ahead of that was simply to validate his or her thoughts and dismiss that of what was being discussed. So again, that was shown in the report, but it still doesn't, again, there were still other shortcomings, if you will, or concerns that planning staff had. It just seemed that traffic was the focal point during the meeting. On to the development agreement piece. Again, I don't disagree. If an applicant locks into a development agreement on their piece of property, that's great because they're tied to that. Mm-hmm. Whatever they propose to city and approved by council, they have to adhere to that. But I said my concern really was around the other properties that are surrounding this one. So now it doesn't stop somebody from coming in and asking for a rezoning next to the property, asking to put some more density on their piece of property, and be willing to lock into a development agreement. And then there's a trickle down effect. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I say the potential is there, and that was my concern. And North River Road, that was probably more of a statement than anything, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, and I think Councillor Rivera kind of touched on what I would say was that at the November meeting, it was still the recommendation of planning staff, planning board to reject the application. And the time before that, it was still the recommendation to reject the application. And I think studies definitely have a purpose in anything we do, but there's always a little bit of subjectivity to studies too. I think we know that this property is located at the top of a blind hill, and they say sightlines isn't an issue, but again, it goes back to the 2004 application across the way, and I don't know what's changed on that road that would say in 2004, it's not okay to go on and exit onto and access Brackett Point Road, but now in 2020 it is. So that was just my thought.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't know, I've spent a lot of time out there in the last 6 weeks or so, measuring off the Stone Park School, the daycare, Sherwood School, they all come into play, and I said, holy smokes, they're not even close to where this development is. And as far as a blind, they're at the roads, the exit entrance road is at the top of a blind hill. That's not true. The exit, the set upon road, I don't know where the present one is, but the new road that's going in is going to be on the north side. So the hill in question is quite a distance that way. So I don't know, Councilor McCabe?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I was surprised when I did read this and read the results of the traffic study, because I grew up in the area. We were always left to believe the reason that lot was vacant was we couldn't get access off Brackett Point Road. So, and I think that whether the standards changed or what have you, I don't know, but there's a reason that lot's vacant. There's a reason it's been vacant for all these years, and it's always been because of the sight lines. So I don't know if standards have changed, but you know what? On the other side of the coin, it's an R1 lot, and I guess now someone can develop a home on it. But I mean, I was a little surprised when I read through this, and you know, they're saying that the facts come back and that the sight lines were okay. I don't know. To me, it's always been dangerous. It's the sight lines aren't. They're not real good. So I'm not sure where the drive will go. If it's on the top of the hill, and I recall when the reservoir was there, Sherwood's Reservoir, when we amalgamated with the city, and that was closed down. So there's a home built there. It was all filled in. There's a home built there, and like Councilor McCabe said, they had to get access off Maxfield. Behind them, they couldn't get access off St. Peter's Road. This is directly across the street. So I'm not sure what changed, but I agree. I think it's still too dangerous for that many homes.
Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution? Six and opposed? So 7-1? Okay. Motion's carried 7-1. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Rivard, second by Councillor McCabe, whereas the planning board submitted a recommendation to council on November 6, 2019 to approve the amendments to the zoning and development bylaw, PHZD.2, meeting excerpt as attached, and that the council approve that the resolution number 3 on November 12, 2019 to amend the zoning and development bylaw, PHZ2.2, as attached, and further that in the council resolution approved on November 12, 2019, the request to amend Appendix A definitions was unintentionally omitted. Therefore, be it resolved that the amendments to the zoning and development bylaw PH-Z2.2 pertaining to the Appendix A definitions be approved.
Questions, call?
Seeing no questions, all in favor? Opposed? Carried 9-0.
To adopt bylaw PHZ2.2023, a bylaw to amend the zoning and development bylaw to amend sections of the zoning and development bylaw PHZ2.2 pertaining to the Appendix A definitions. Be resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw PHZ2.2-023 as it pertains to the zoning and development amendment as attached be read the first time. Moved by Councillor Rivard, second by Councillor McCabe.
Pass.
Opposed?
Moved by Councillor Rivard, second by Councillor McCabe. Be resolved that the zoning and development bylaw, zoning and development amendment bylaw PHZ2.2023 be approved and that it be read a second time at the next regular meeting of council.
All in favor?
Pass.
Second reading to adopt bylaw P8Z2.2022, a bylaw to amend an existing development concept plan and development agreement in the CDA zone from 2 buildings with 88 units in total to 1 building with 88 units and increase the height from 50 feet to 62 feet for lot 2014-6 Towers Road, PID number 1076728. Moved by Councillor Rivera, second by Councillor Cabe, whereas the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw P8Z2.2022 as pertains to lot 2014-6 Towers Road, PID 1076728, as attached was read and approved a first time on November 9th, 2019. Be resolved that the said bylaw be read a second time.
Pass.
Moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Councillor Kaye, be it resolved that the said bylaw be approved and adopted.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Does, thank you.
Thank you. Move on to the Public Works. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Worship. Our Public Works Committee did not meet this past month. We were scheduled to meet on December 25th, and I got such a hassle from some of the staff that I called it off. Christmas Day, they wanted it off, so I guess give them that. Anyway, therefore I have nothing to report. We're in the midst of winter. Everybody's up and working day and night, night and day. Had a rough day yesterday. The consistency of the snow that came down out of the sky. I have a brand new snow blower myself, and it wouldn't do anything with it, and I think everybody was in the same boat, so I'll just basically answer any questions. But before I do that, I'd just like to impress upon the general public and fellow councillors here, the staff, that, the city of Charlottetown is a pretty big responsibility when it comes to public works, especially this time of year. Like we have 44 square kilometers of land to look after. Not all public land, a great majority of it private land, but over that amount of land, we have 150 kilometers of sidewalks. We have 250 kilometers of roads. We have on staff right now 13 sidewalk plows. We have 6 plow salt trucks and 5 loaders going, and they're going night and day. And I think they do a great job. I think the staff here inside does a great job, as well as the people out trying to keep our roads safe and keep people out of trouble. So I'll have any questions anyone has, I'll pleased to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Until you said sidewalks, I wasn't going to ask anything. But just, and you're right, the Public Works staff deserve a ton of credit because it is a lot of work, and kudos to them, so pass that along. Sidewalks, is there a schedule that is put in place for the cleaning of sidewalks? So, for instance, Beech Grove Road, just in my area, I'm wondering this because I get some phone calls with regards to when it's going to be plowed. And I'd like to be able to answer. I tell residents that, it takes a bit of time, worry about the roads, clean them off first, and then we come to the sidewalks. But I'd love to be able to say, like, here's the schedule, expect this after a snowfall. I'm just kind of curious if there is a schedule.
Thank you, Councillor. Very well. There's kind of a floating schedule or a flexible schedule that allowed Mr. Adams, our city engineer, to answer. But basically, it depends on what time of the week. If it's a Saturday morning and the next activity in the city basically is going to be the next morning on Sunday when people are going to church, they'll start at the churches and move outward from there. If it's a school day or the day before a school day, they start at the schools and branch out from there. This is after they've done the downtown area, where all the commerce, or not all the commerce, most of the commerce takes place. And any other events that are planned or, just annual events or monthly events, they take that into consideration. There's not much sense of sending the sidewalk plows out to a church because they can get those later because on a Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Mr. Adams if you'd like to add to that kind of structure.
So just to reiterate, so it is, I guess, how we break down our plowing routes is we have 13 plow routes for sidewalks and 13 machines. So there's so many variables that determine, you know, if it's, the snow stops at 5 a.m., for instance, and we know school is going to be coming, we do send them all into the school zones. Like I say, so many variables, it's really hard to give a schedule, but again, the easiest way is we do have plow routes. So when that plow goes into that route, it stays in that route until it gets done, unless some breakdown or something of that nature happens. So that's how we typically run our operations for snow.
Thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Twill?
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I want to bring forth, first of all, I want to commend the Public Works staff. As you pointed out, both indoor and outdoor. It's a pretty difficult time of year, and there's a lot of challenges. But what I've found with Public Works, I see improvements every year, and the response when you make a request on behalf of the residents, getting answers is so important. At least gives you some type of a synopsis or a time frame, and I found the staff to be very, very responsive. So I just want to thank the staff. One of my constituents who's an avid user of the rails to trails, he's probably using them twice a day. And I think you know the gentleman. He uses the rails to trails going north, crosses Allen Street, then he crosses Belvedere Avenue. And one of his recommendations is the flashing yellow lights is not a deterrent in any which way, shape, or form. So Mr. Gallant is recommending that the lights be changed from yellow to red. That way, the vehicle traffic will be put on notice, not only to watch for the pedestrians, could be walkers, bikers, joggers, that they must come to a complete stop and yield to the people that are crossing these two very east-west connectors here in the city of Charlottetown, probably one of the most used streets, Belvedere Avenue and Allen Street. And so he would certainly feel much safer as a trail user as well as other participants. So again, his recommendation is to go from the flashing yellow lights, which seems to be no deterrent whatsoever, to flashing red lights. I just wanted to bring that forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Twill. I walk the same trail, and yeah, you're right. Some people aren't very observant of the crosswalk, whether the yellow light's flashing or not. But I'll turn to the city of Charlottetown, like all municipalities in Canada, go by the Transportation Association of Canada's manual or handbook or user guide or whatever, and therefore I assume the city engineer uses that. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Adams, and he can fill you in with the details.
Thank you, Councillor. So yes, so we are looking at both, well, we are looking in particular the Allen Street, or not, sorry, not the Allen Street, but the Longworth Avenue crossing. I know that's a concern for a lot of people.
It
We
is.
are looking at, that is an option that we are looking at as part of the capital budget process.
Yeah.
For the crossing of Belvedere that you mentioned.
And Allen.
And Allen. In particular, Belvedere, so flashing red means a full stop all the time. With the roundabout there, it would not function, unfortunately, for that. There would have to be, you'd have to look at different options for that because of the roundabout and the proximity. For the other location, it's something you can't change the current setup to just overhead red flashing. It's not the recommended setup. There are certain setups that you can look at, but again, there's just costs to upgrade those things. But it's something that we could look at and forward some information at one of our following committee meetings.
Thank you. I look forward to exploring those options and those safety measures. I can assure you that this gentleman, who's a lifelong resident, and other users of the rails and trails, and we have many users, people that commute back and forth to work, go to the University of Prince Edward Island, also commuting to Holland College, feel very safe when they're not dealing with that vehicle traffic. But once they attempt to cross both those busy streets, it's a cause for concern. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Yep, I just have one. 'Cause I agree, some of these ones, some of these crosswalks aren't really safe, and I'll point out one, Emmett Crestman, University Avenue. And it's funny, my son sent me a picture, and I can forward it on to you, Scott, but in Banff, they have the crosswalk sign, and they have red lights in it. Small flashing red lights, so when they press the button, the crosswalk sign lights up. It's got the 2 red lights in it, and it needs to make it a lot safer. It's more at eye level. They have the high ones that go over, but sometimes there's people just not catching them. And so I could forward that to you. I think it's worth looking into.
No more questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to economic development.
Geez, you know, I forgot.
Councilor Ramsey.
That hurts. Economic Development Tours and Events Management met January 7th. Open draft minutes are in your package. The Charlottetown Arts Advisory Board met December 10th. The minutes are also in there. We have one resolution. And any questions? There are, as you noticed, in 2019, we've been very busy with events, tourism, attractions, and everything along that line, working on things that are heading to this beautiful city of ours. And the next thing on the agenda, our 2020 is going to be very, very busy also. And as we said at our last meeting, we're looking at 5 years down the road, so we're working on things all the time. The projects are always moving. And our next big thing is the Jack Frost. It's the 14th of February to the 17th. And I encourage all the residents and everybody to purchase tickets and get out there and sort of support this fine cause, because we're going to have a great time at it. Any questions? Hey, and there's one resolution, Your Worship, sorry.
Your Worship, thank you, Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Ramsey, over the last month or so, I've been noticing there's been a few announcements about the progress or the recognition and acknowledgements the city of Charlottetown has received, and I think they've stuck by on us on occasion. So I sat down and put pencil to paper, and I'd just like to go over some of the good news stories for the city of Charlottetown in the last month or so, both in social media and in the hard copy area. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge your staff and committee on all good news stories that are currently circulated on social media and otherwise related to economic development, tourism, and event management, or management efforts. GSI is the first one, GSI Canada Index. Charlottetown currently has the #1 ranking in Canada for hosting sport events in the GSI Canada Index, population under 50,000. Charlottetown is also ranked 6th overall in the country, with Montreal, Quebec City, Edmonton, Toronto, and Vancouver. So that's a pretty heady company for our city. The second one to mention or draw attention to is the Charlottetown PEI, one of Canada's best kept secrets. Freelance journalist Nadja Igni wrote a compelling article suggesting that the capital of Canada's smallest province, Prince Edward Island, is quite possibly one of the greatest places on earth. It's a travelogue of sorts. So that's another pat in the back or feather in your hat. The third one is vacay.ca, 20 best places in Canada to travel. Charlottetown has once again made this list in Canada for 2020. The list spotlights designations that are at the forefront of environmental progress while remaining exciting places to visit with quality attractions, innovative enterprises, nature-filled activities, and outstanding accommodations. And finally, just last week, Swoop came to Charlottetown, and this is WestJet's discount subsidiary airline, which is expanding to the East Coast, and Charlottetown is on the schedule. Swoop will offer 3 flights a week to Hamilton, Ontario, starting at the end of June. All of that, Your Worship, to say your committee and your staff are doing one heck of a good job. Whatever their recipe or their secret or their formulary or whatever is for success, I think they should patent it, because somebody will be after. They seem to, their goals and objectives are always met. Anyway, congratulations to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duffy, for all those comments. As I said, like, when we were away at our last convention in spring, I believe, that's when we're told we're #1 for the smaller cities, and we're number 6th or 7th, I think, Wayne, right across Canada. And that's going against Vancouver, Montreal, and all those things. So it's all very good news stories, and and I would echo his comments. The staff do a fantastic job. We're always meeting, we're always phoning each other and all that stuff. And, I mean, kudos to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to echo Councillor Duffy and Councillor Ramsey, I was out door to door on Saturday talking to quite a few of my residents in Ward 1 and been hearing some really, really favorable things about the reimagined Jack Frost Festival, and I just wanted to say kudos to the staff and to the committee and to everyone that was involved, and really looking forward to it, and thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I got one resolution.
Yes.
Chair, moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor McLeod, that the City of Charlottetown amend the City of Charlottetown public art policy as attached.
Questions? Seeing none, all,
No.
all in favor?
You're doing a Mitchell thing.
Opposed? Carried 9-0. Thank you.
Opposed?
No, we're all in favor.
Report,
Yes, it is. Thank you, Your Worship.
so we'll move on to
That would look bad.
environment and sustainability.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Environment and Sustainability Committee and the Food Council has not met since our last meeting. The Mayor's Task Force on Active Transportation met on December 10th, and the draft minutes are included. I have no resolutions for consideration, but I do have a few highlights. I might as well throw them out after Kevin's report. I mean, there can't be any more highlights. But anyway, monthly ridership for the Charlottetown Transit System was 51,543 for December. That brings the total Charlottetown ridership for 2019 up to 69,472. So that's an increase of 23% in the year of 2019. So that's great things to hear as we get moving forward more with transit. It's good news. The high school transit pilot currently running at Charlottetown Rural and Colonel Gray as well, and it's off to a great start. There's 663 riders in the first month of December, so things looking good there as well, and hope to get the youth more involved with the transit system. The city's Bring It campaign has been very busy. It had visits to the Charlottetown Farmers Market and to the local grocery stores at City Hall. Over 400 people have made the pledge to bring their reusables. So for those that are not quite sure what I'm talking about, it's a media push to try and get people to use their reusables instead of the single-use plastics. So we have a booth set up where you come and make the pledge, and we give you the item for free. So we do have the pledge booth going to show up at the Confederation Center from 1 to 4, January the 16th. And it's at the Atlantic Superstore, 465 University Avenue, from 10 to 1 on January 25th. So, some of the studies we did on that, that was one of the obstacles why people couldn't seem to just get on to bring in their reusable product. And it was just, so we were giving out reminders of one you'll stick in your fridge, one you'll stick in your car window, whatever, to make you remember to take your water bottle or your coffee cup or straw, whatever it is. So it's good to see this movement happening. The Mayor's Task Force on Active Transportation hosted a screening of the Motherlode on Sunday, yesterday, at City Cinema. The film demonstrates the social benefits of cycling and the experience of being cyclists with children. Despite the poor weather, it was a pretty good turnout, and the organizers were happy, and there was lots of positive feedback. And on behalf of the Environment and Sustainability Committee, Your Worship, I'd like to welcome Jessica Corkum-Gorill to the position of Forestry and Environmental Officer. Jessica is originally from PEI and is returning home after a successful career with the City of Mississauga. Jessica brings her great experience to the city in forest management, ecosystem restoration, and parks management. So I just want to say welcome to Jessica. I look forward to working with her. Thank you very much, and that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for your report, Councillor McLeod. As you know, I've risen in this chamber on a number of occasions with regards to the crows. And recently, the crows were relocated from Victoria Park into the heart of the city again, causing a havoc and hazard for a lot of property owners and constituents that reside within 10, 15, maybe 20 block radius. I'm not sure who was down at the park or if a group of people were using a device to discourage the gathering of the crows down at Victoria Park. But nonetheless, I want to reiterate what I've said on a number of occasions. I look forward to working with you and your committee to devise a strategy to once and for all deal effectively with the crows, because it does affect the quality of life for the residents. Crow droppings and other nuisances that they bring to a neighborhood and the community. One of the things I think we need to do is devise a communication strategy as to people feeding the crows. So somewhere along the line, we need to come up with a plan of action and create a template, if you will, and create a communication strategy to work with the residents, communicate with them. I look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tweel, for your comments on the crows. Definitely we'll bring it back. I know we've been struggling with trying to find an answer from other municipalities as to what they're doing. It seems to be whatever efforts we do, they move from one area to another, and eventually when you let up on those efforts, they come back again. So it is a very frustrating thing for everybody. And I think I know Victoria Park has so many trees, it does get hit hard. But I think in all our districts, I think anyone that's got a lot of trees and parks, we're finding crows are a problem everywhere. So, and maybe Jessica there, being from, coming from Mississauga, to see what kind of interest they had there, and we'll definitely put it on our table for our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor McLeod. I appreciate that commitment. But I can tell you that over the past number of years, this has been a real challenge for neighborhoods and communities. And like I say, the sooner a strategy and plan of action is drawn up and communicating with our residents, the better. Thank you.
We'll take it.
Seeing no more comments, we'll move on to strategic priorities. Councilor.
Thank you. The Strategic Priorities and Intergovernmental Cooperations Committee did not meet since our last council meeting.
Sorry.
Did I rattle your chain? No. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee did not meet either. However, last month, Councillor Duran had asked me for an update on the where we're at with our fire hall, and so I did want to provide a little bit of information on that. And basically, that the discussions are ongoing, and the three things that we need to identify is a confirmation of a site location, preliminary dimensions, as well as functionality for this station. So with this project being significant in numerous ways, it's prudent that all necessary information and expectations are aligned as to provide the best possible options available. So with this structure being a critical component of the city's essential services, it is imperative that all aspects be explored prior to commencement. So although the project of this nature does not take time, the Strategic Priorities and Intergovernmental Committee is pleased to report that the committee remains committed as this project advances, and I will bring back information to council as soon as we have additional information. So if there's any other questions, I will do my best to answer. Thank you very much.
Seeing no questions or comments, we'll move on to finance items.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Our committee met on Friday, Your Worship, and minutes are in your packets. Your Worship, we have one resolution, and that has to do with the parking lot agreement, renewing that parking lot agreement on Park Street with the provincial government for a two-year lease. Couple of highlights, Your Worship. Budget input. The committee set a date for January 28th for the open house and the public input for the 2021 upcoming budget. Residents have the opportunity to speak directly with staff or speak directly with elected officials. Also, Your Worship, they'll have the opportunity to provide input through email, social media, or written response. And Your Worship, the current budget, as everyone knows, we're in our fourth quarter. Our budget now ends in March. So the city is on target. We're on budget right now. So I want to thank all the chairs and their managers keeping us on budget. And let's be diligent and let's finish the last quarter and stay on budget. Sometimes, with government, sometimes you're in the last quarter and the managers are looking at their budget and they got to burn money because they think they're not going to get it back in the next round. I would encourage you not to do that. Let's stay on budget here. And there may be some other projects or some other programs with any surplus dollars that we could put into new programming. So, again, right now we're in good shape, we're on target, so let's continue down that road. Other than the one resolution, if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Councilor Rivera?
Not me.
Councilor Brown?
Thank you for your report, Councilor Bernard. I just seen on the city website that we're going out to tender for long-term debt financing. Can you explain what that is? Is that just to get a better interest rate on some of the financing that we have in place now? I was reading it and I couldn't understand it, so I was just wondering if you could answer that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the city usually does their projects, so on. If they're doing capital projects and what have you, we work on a line of credit, and when that line of credit is exhausted, we go to tender. My understanding is that was just opened on Friday, I believe, Peter? Yeah. So there'll be good news coming, very good rates, long-term. So anyway, that would be, our finance committee's meeting tomorrow. So once we meet tomorrow, that'll get wrapped up and the details of that will come out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Seeing no more questions, we'll move on to the resolution.
Mr. Chair, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Councilor Rivard, that the council approve the attached licensing agreement between the province of PEI, Holland College, and the city of Charlottetown for PID 365585 parking lot off Park Street, and that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute the standard contract agreements to implement this resolution.
Question.
Question called. All in favor? Those opposed? Carried 9-0. Thank you. That concludes your report.
It does, Your Worship.
Moving on to Human Resource Councilor McKee.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The Human Resources Communications Administration Committee last met December 18th. The minutes are included in your package, and I don't have any resolutions to consider. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer them.
Seeing no questions or comments, Councilor McKee will move on to Parks and Recreation. Councilor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. As usual standard procedure, volunteer of the month as Chair of Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Committee. I'm pleased to announce that Matthew Gillespie as our first volunteer of the month for 2020. Matthew's been involved with the Charlottetown Tigers Minor Basketball Association for the past 7 years. His first year's experience with the association was as a parent volunteer with the Tiny Tigers group. After that season, Matthew had played basketball in junior high and high school and learned that coaching and playing were two different things. With the support of his loving wife, Matthew was able to embrace the challenge of coaching and now coached all three of his sons at a number of different levels within the association. This past season, Matthew took on the role as president, and although there have been many challenges, Matthew said he is proud of the work the executive and many of the parent volunteers have been able to accomplish. Please join with me in congratulating Matthew on your recognition as January Volunteer of the Month. And I want to take the time to, every month we do this, and I think it's a great thing. I think maybe we take one night of the year and we invite all our volunteers, whether they receive an award or not, regardless of what the sport is, and have a night for them. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just a small reception to say thank you to our volunteers, because this city and our recreational programming, regardless of what it is, basketball, hockey, football, tennis, whatever the case may be, would not be possible without the indispensable commitment of our volunteers. So I think that's something, Mr. Kelly and Frank, we need to consider. We can't thank our volunteers enough. They're doing this for nothing. Some of these volunteers are up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the rink, getting the kids ready to play hockey, or whatever the case may be. And I think the more we can recognize our volunteers and thank them, the more volunteers hopefully we'll get, because without our volunteers, municipality just doesn't work. So I just wanted to bring that to the table. I want to also just give you a brief on our Winter Active campaign. This year is the 9th year for the City of Charlottetown Parks and Recreation Department Winter Activities Campaign. The campaign will run from March 8th with a free event for everyone. The overall goal of the campaign is to encourage residents to get outside and be winter active. The department offers the following event and activities to assist residents to be more active in the winter. Free snowshoeing in Victoria Park every Sunday, starting January 19th until March 8th. A limited number of snowshoes are available, so please sign up early. 2 free skates are being offered January 26th at Simmons Sports Center and on March 1st at Cody Bank Arena. Please check the times on the website. 3 winter family events throughout the city on a number of Sundays in January and February. The free events will run from 2 to 4. Activities will include sleigh rides, skating on the outdoor rinks when available, and access to snowshoes. Event dates are January 19th at the Malcolm Dara Community Center in East Royalty, February the 2nd, West Royalty Community Center, and February 23rd at the Hillsborough Community Center. Light Up the Park, the City of Charlottetown, in partnership with the Winter Love PEI, are hosting an event in Victoria Park on Sunday, February the 9th. There will be a number of activities, including sleigh rides, snowshoeing, access to cross-country ski trails, and more winter fun. Once again, a limited number of snowshoes are available, so please sign up early. We have a Learn to Run program Monday, January the 20th at the Young Sports Center at UPEI. Anyone interested in joining can call the Parks and Recreation Department and register for more information. And the city maintains 2 cross-country ski trails at Victoria Park and Belvedere Golf Course. Trail conditions can also be found on the city's website. That's basically the report, Your Worship. I'll do my best to answer any questions. And I got one other point I'd like to bring up.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Reyes.
Yes, I just want to say that there was a large ringette tournament held here in Charlottetown on the weekend. As Councilor Rivard knows, and I was there as a spectator. He's probably his coach. But he went over very well. I think there's close to 80 teams, and they're all from around the area, and it was fantastic to see.
I just have one other point. As you know, we've been reading about the future of the green space, the old PEI hospital site, and it's brought a lot of concern to the community and to all islanders, not just in Charlottetown, but to all islanders. If you can recall, back February 11th, which is almost a year ago, City Council, all members of City Council, took the proactive approach and passed a resolution. I'll read it. Be it resolved, the City Council supports the Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Committee recommendation that the old Prince Edward Island home property, PID number 365957, be earmarked for green space parkland by the province of Prince Edward Island and at such time when the facility has been removed. Well, what we're reading about, as we're reading about 40 parking spaces, some residents believe it's more than that. It's certainly not the intention of City Council to have a sea of parking at this particular site. I think it was made clear a year ago to the province that we would like to see this space become part of Victoria Park, to expand the footprint of Victoria Park and begin the process of consulting with the community as to what that green space would consist of, whether it be passive, whether it be active, whatever the case may be. There's, as I said earlier, there's a lot of concern amongst our residents. They see half-ton trucks by the cargo load parking down there on that particular site, and the residents are not happy. I know some members of council have heard from their respective constituents, and so have I. So I wanted to bring this up, and I do believe it's time that we have an emergency meeting with the provincial government, and whether it be the Minister of Transportation and Public Works or the Premier, to get this back on the rails, to look towards creating a plan which would be green space and green space only. I believe there's other options and other methodologies that the province can use if they're short of parking. We know they're short of parking. One suggestion is to expand the back of the provincial buildings and add a two-tier level parking garage to help assist them with their parking deficit. And maybe some of the vehicles that you see there now can be relocated and parked somewhere else that the province has space. But this is very serious, Your Worship, and members of council. And again, to City Council's credit, almost a year ago, we sent a message to the province. Every member of council was quite clear in that exercise that we want this to remain green and green only. And I think we need to sit down with the province, ASP, and sit down with the province and talk about the spirit of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tweel. I just wanted to give you a little update. As Chair of Intergovernmental Affairs, I have reached out to the Minister in charge of that file to set up a meeting. And once I have confirmation of when that is, I will certainly keep everyone in the loop on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lana. I think as the Chair of Parks and Recreation, I want to be able to attend that meeting as well.
Sure.
Because, from a Parks and Recreation perspective, I said this to our CAO and to Frank, we want to be not only involved, we want to be in the ground floor, because we're talking the historical significance of Victoria Park and the presence, and certainly from a contemporary perspective, but we need to roll up our sleeves and send the unequivocal message that we will not tolerate parking or a sea of parking, whatever the case may be, whether it's numbers 40, 80, 120, whatever the case may be. That is not what we want in Victoria Park. We want to expand the footprint. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions or comments, we can move on to the next committee report, emergency service. That's Councillor Drummond.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cody. The Protective and Emergency Service Committee did not meet in December. We're trying to get a specific time after 4 o'clock to meet, and it conflicts with a lot of other committees, so we moved it to the 27th of the month. So, I have one resolution for your consideration, and if anybody has any questions, fire away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Councillor Duran, I've noticed on the CBC website, there was an interview done with a lady that's working on her PhD. She's talking about a trend for firefighters across Prince Edward Island, and that is the movement towards not just fighting fires, but giving assist to medical requirements and attention throughout the province. And I know that a number of years ago, I raised a concern about our firefighters taking on a responsibility that really isn't their responsibility. Our volunteers, I would suggest, are taxed to the limit. And now, because of what we're being made aware of, providing medical attention and medical services is certainly a variation from firefighting. Now, that doesn't mean we can't assist, but I don't think that onus and responsibility should be put on firefighters, particularly here in the city of Charlottetown, because now you're into liability issues. You're into all those different challenges, and I believe there's a shortage of ambulances here in the province and here in the city, and I think I would encourage you, sir, to bring this back to your committee and have a meeting with the province to find out what's going on and why in fact we are our volunteers and our fire department are being asked to take on that responsibility. And I'll take a little step further. It's just another example of where there's downloading and downsizing onto the municipality. It just seems to be, that seems to be the trend. You want to talk about a trend, that seems to be a trend. So I wanted to bring that up. It's a major concern for me. I certainly, don't want to see our volunteers, our firefighters take on any more responsibility that they're taking on now, because if we continue to do that, then it's going to be hard to find volunteers. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, and the fire chief, I know the fire chief is already aware of it, but I think we need to get to the bottom of that.
Thank you, Councillor Tweel. I think our fire department is called upon in emergency situations when there's an ambulance not available, but this is certainly something that, they don't want to be doing, of course, but if there's 2 or 3 ambulances on the road and they're tied up, then our fire department is more than willing and able to help and give a hand. But in consideration of your request, we'll put it on the agenda and we'll discuss it at our next committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Drawn. And I guess what I'd like to know, when you do bring back a report to council, how many times you are being called out and dealing with medical issues versus fire calls. I think that's important. And, this trend that the PhD student has been talking about, a retired firefighter, I think we need to get a grip on, how many calls and why are we assuming that responsibility when it's really not our responsibility, even though we want to provide assistance, but by all means, but I don't think the onus should be put on our volunteer firefighters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing no more questions or comments, there is one resolution.
Mr. Chair, moved by Councillor Drawn, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the Public Works Manager be authorized to cut grass, remove any fallen trees and subsequent undergrowth that would lead to the existence of animal life, remove any other materials, camper trailer, or debris, clean up garbage and/or property dispose of same at the owner's expense on the property located at 2 Eden Street, PID 368-365, in accordance with the terms of the Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly bylaw of the City of Charlottetown.
Seeing no questions, all in favor? Those opposed? Carried 9-0. Thank you.
You're done.
The next report is sewer and water. Councilman Cade. Give that for me, please.
So the Water and Sewer Utility Committee met on December 17th. The minutes are in your package. Again, there are no resolutions for your consideration, and if you have any questions, we will do our best to answer them.
Yeah.
Oh, you have
Yeah, not so much a question as a comment and a thank you. I see now that a announcement went out that all the wastewater that used to be going into the lagoon in East Road is now going to the treatment plant. Great news. So everybody in East Road would be pretty happy with that. And I guess the final step is in the spring, I guess they're going to drain the lagoon and fill it in. So good news. It's been on the works for probably 2, if not 3 years. Good to see it just about concluded. Good to see all the wastewater now being treated properly and going to the plant. So just want to say thank you to your committee, Jason, and for your staff. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Councilor Bernard, for those comments, and if I may, that press release did go out today, and as you probably know, that lagoon's been in operation since 1987.
Yeah.
The city operated since amalgamation in 95, so it's a pretty significant step forward in terms of environment and utilizing our plant that we have. And the province and feds also came on board to help us out with that, so we're thankful.
That's right,
for that
yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
Councilor Bernard. Okay, there's no questions or comments on that. We'll move on to council advisory, and that's Councilor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Council Advisory Committee met Friday, January the 10th, and the draft minutes are included. I have one resolution for consideration and a second reading of the enumeration bylaw. And that's, any questions, I'll try and answer.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duran?
Thank you, Councilor McLeod, for your report. I have a concern, I brought it up about 6 or 8 months ago in regards to our, the travel that councillors are entitled to. I know that, when we were setting this up in finance, when we first got in, each committee was given $5,000. The chair was to use that for travel if they wanted to go for an educational conference or, to attend things like that to help your committee. And I certainly agree with that for councillors getting education in regards to their committees. I just know our third quarter's coming out, I think, or we're heading into our fourth quarter of expenses. And I don't think we have a bylaw in place to limit some of the travel that we take. I think it's kind of getting out of hand, and I was going to ask if your committee could look at the possibility of putting one in place that would kind of limit the expectation of the expenses of what we put forward on the $5,000 limit. So I'm just asking if you could take it to your committee and discuss that, because, I don't know where else to take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Strong, for your question. Just to kind of rephrase what the process is now. So each councillor falls under a committee, which we submit a budget, which we all know. And as far as I understand, but it'd be maybe more of a question for finance, but I don't think any of us have overgone their budget as of yet. I know there's been a couple occasions where some councils are seen to be going, but that's only in the case of where, for example, the mayor couldn't go to one, so we asked the council to go to that. And there's been a couple of that movement around but usually it's somebody from that committee that would go. But yes, definitely we'll certainly look at that. Since there is a concern, that's definitely will be brought up, and you'd be more than welcome. I can send the invite to you for sure to let you know when the meeting is, and we'll discuss that. Thank you very much for your question.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Seeing no more questions, we'll move on to the resolution.
Mr. Chair, moved by Councillor McLeod, seconded by Councillor Duffy, that the council approves the appointment of the tourism officer and the chair of strategic priorities and intergovernmental cooperation for 3 years as the city's representatives on the Canadian Capital Cities Organization Board of Directors, as recommended by Council Advisory Committee.
Question.
Questions called? All in favor? Those opposed? Carried 9-0.
To establish a bylaw as per Section 82 of the Municipal Government Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap M-12.1, which enables council to establish the types of rates and conditions of payments to be made on behalf of the members of the council, a member of the council committee, or another person. Moved by Councilor McLeod, seconded by Councilor Duffy. Be resolved that the City of Charlottetown resolution be read a second time at the said bylaw be now adopted.
Shall pass.
What was that one on?
Remuneration bylaw?
Sounds great. Okay. So, no.
Okay. Thank you.
7-2.
So that concludes your report.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
So we can move on to new business
Yes, you
now.
may. Yep, thank you.
Councillor Cleo.
No, that was good.
Thank you.
Moved by Councilor Twill, seconded by Councilor Drawn, whereas at council's regular meeting on December 9th, 2019, council unanimously supported a resolution supporting a provincial forfeiture law for Prince Edward Island, and whereas Summerside City Council also passed a resolution supporting our call, and whereas the FPEIM, the Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities, carry a valued voice when lobbying the provincial government. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown asks the FPEIM to join Summerside in Charlottetown's call for provincial law by creating a task force that will include municipal leaders from across PEI. And further, that it be resolved that the city bring this forward to the next board meeting of FPEIM and to the next FPEIM annual general meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Those opposed? Carried 9-0, thank you.
Thank you, Council.
I think that concludes the report. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Rivera and Councilor Rivera. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Very good work, Jason. Jeez.
Mike?
We like you in that chair.
Just like that.
6:20.